I'm Wendy Ladd, and welcome to the Fabulous Fit and Fantastic Show. Today we're going to have a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. I'm with a very good friend of mine, Scott Evans. We're in wonderful, sunny Los Angeles, California. So welcome, Scott, to the show.
Thanks for having me in. This is great.
And I met you in Toronto a few years ago, and now I'm actually in your town. I know you live in Pasadena, but we're still in California. You're making an impact all through California. You're on, let's see what you do. You've written books, you're a producer, you're an entrepreneur, big, huge teacher of many things. And what else do you do?
We do a lot of things. Recently, though, just something I was telling you about, I'm pretty excited about, talking about the
inventor.
Inventor.
That's your main thing. You're a huge inventor.
But really what it comes down to is building things, right? Yeah. So we had an idea with a friend of mine to create a system or a company around helping people develop the body they want to bear. All right, not from like a lewd kind of like approach, but just from when you present yourself, whether clothed or at the beach, how do you want to present your body, right? So we decided to put together a company called Body Bear Fitness, and I was fortunate enough to be innovative enough to create some really cool exercise products, and we placed them on The Biggest Loser TV show, season 12.
Oh, right on. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, they were handheld exercise products, innovative. From a sports medicine background that I have, innovative push-up products, innovative and improvements on...
Give me visual on push-up products.
Push-up products. Products. No, it's products. So anyway, I created a couple other products that went on the show, and people just really like them a lot because they're nice to hold, they're comfortable to use, they're fun to use, and they just add intensity. But the most important thing about these products is they force you into the proper form. Because I don't care if you're getting into gymnastics, fitness, entrepreneurial space, which we'll touch on later, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
But you've got to embody the optimal form to operate in such a way you're going to make something of it, whether it's financial, have the great physical form, right?
Yep.
So it's really just moving in a direction of optimum results through optimum form.
And I saw one of them actually on your website, and it was a big square pad. It looked like for push-ups. Just tell me a little bit.
Those are called the Cush-Ups.
Yeah.
I was watching an infomercial years ago with a friend of mine, Greg, and he's the guy who created the Buns of Steel video series.
Right, he did.
Back in the late 80s.
Yes, I have that video.
Oh, do you?
Yes,
It works, doesn't it?
It did.
It did. Anyway, but the point is, we were watching, he was in Vegas and I was in LA at 2 in the morning with one eye open, like most of us sit and watch paid programming or leased channel, programming, and we're watching infomercials. And I said, at the time, Greg, there's just nothing out there for push-ups. Well, of course, later in time, those rotating handle push-up products came out, which are actually dangerous because they force an anterior turn and a shoulder girdle in most of us, just from a fitness.
You get a lock.
It really is dangerous because this is a very weak area of our body, right? So I said, well, how can we recruit a bunch of stabilizing muscles in our arms, our chest, and our back, and our shoulder with a cushioned, properly positioned push-up? So I created a product called the Cush-Ups, cushioned push-up.
You're
I like
so
to
good
call
at
things
that.
what they are,
right?
So it forces you into a knuckle-down position. So if the right way to do lift weights is fist over wrist, so wouldn't it make sense that the right way to do a push-up is invert that and do wrist over fist? So I created a product that makes it comfortable to do a push-up that way. So what that's called, and everybody can go online and get their dictionaries out, and it's called a proprioceptively enriched environment.
Say that again.
Proprioceptively enriched environment. Anyway,
Google it.
It just talks about it's the complete external input of stuff that requires you to recruit stabilizing muscles you normally wouldn't recruit when you're working out.
Now I know you're an inventor and you've invented many things. Where in your brain do you actually come up with stuff like that?
Well,
you're thinking and you're just like, oh, I have an idea. Because you can think of ideas. We've been chatting many times and you're like, hey, I have an idea now. And you're just like, boom, and you're off. And you actually make it happen. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit on how to actually take everything to the next level. But where is it inside of you that you have that ability to do that?
Well, I just allow it to happen. A couple of years ago, I was working in the trades. I was an air conditioning contractor. Actually, this was about 10 or 12, 15 years ago. And I was always solving problems on the job because there were not always tools for something I needed to do, and there were not always replacement parts for something I needed to repair or replace.
Yeah.
So I started just not jerry-rigging, but fixing things, building things. And I realized, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I was a big golfer.
Yeah.
I was an amateur golfer, but like a small A amateur, not like a big A amateur. And I have bad knees like a lot of people have. So I needed to have a stabilizing product for my golf swing, lower body stabilizing product.
And you made one.
So I made one, right? So I
What
went out and
was it?
sold it. It was a product called a leg leash or power coil.
Okay.
So that sold about 18 years ago. But that wasn't a big deal because I wasn't inventing. But I was just solving problems.
You were
But then
solving problems,
Yeah,
but
so I
you were
realized
inventing.
Right, but this is really important. There's 4 criteria for a business, product, or service. 4 criteria you have to meet.
What are
One,
they?
preferably more than one, and it'd be great if you could meet all 4 of those.
What are they? Can you tell us?
It's going to cost.
It's going to be a well-kept secret.
Now,
Write this down.
first of all, are you solving a problem? Secondly, are you inventing to a need? Is this thing needed or wanted?
Yeah.
Are you fulfilling a dream?
Yes.
Or, but the most important one is, can this thing or idea you have for a product, service, business be built, manufactured, developed, and sold or experienced at a profit? That
That's
is
important.
what makes something worthwhile. Can you build it and sell it at a profit? If you can't,
Don't do
then
it.
don't do it.
Now, one thing that you're really great at, and we're going to get into this, is you teach people about how to make things happen. We've talked a little bit about the law of attraction, but you're actually more of the law of action, if you want to say that. Tell us a little bit about your philosophy of how do you get it done? How do you make it happen? How do you actually acknowledge that it's already there inside yourself?
Well, look, a lot of people talk about these innate talents, unique abilities.
Yes.
I read a book recently called Talent is Overrated by Jeffrey Colvin. It's an outstanding book. And it changed my mind. There are no such things as innate talents. It's only after intense, focused, deliberate practice can you now display and act on this thing we call talent.
Right.
So,
Explain that, yeah.
well, okay, for instance, if I were to say, listen, if you want to be a great piano player, like Mozart, for instance,
Yeah.
and at 14
That's a great
he was...
example you told me.
Well, yeah, earlier
Yeah.
we were talking,
Yeah.
right. So Mozart, everybody say, well, he was this child prodigy, he was this outstanding... Well, look, the guy was an amazing performer. But 10 years earlier, when he was 4 years old, his dad stopped doing what he was doing and started drilling him on the piano. And he was playing other people's works. And he became proficient and competent at playing the piano. Lo and behold, 10 years later, when he's 14, what happens? He's bum-ba-da-bum, right? Mr. Everything.
yeah.
But you got to understand, it wasn't
process.
he wasn't just born that way. It wasn't this innate talent. It was drilled into him. But here's the interesting thing. At 46, we're contemporaries, without divulging your age.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm a grandfather of a 6-year-old beautiful boy.
Yes.
So my contemporaries don't want to spend 10 years practicing something new.
Right.
So what I do
Yeah.
is I find out what they've been doing for the last 10, 12, or 14 years, get them to acknowledge and validate what they've been doing.
Bring them forward.
And bring them forward.
Yeah.
Now they're an expert. Now they've got talent. When they were, it was just workaday world for them.
Yeah.
But now they acknowledge, wow, I've got a talent.
How do you recognize that, though? Like somebody for myself or somebody that you meet, how would they, somebody that's watching actually talking about it, how would they actually recognize that and how can they come through? How do you get them to recognize that?
Well, for instance,
What do you do?
I was down in Carlsbad, California,
Yeah.
down North County, San Diego, last week. And I met up with a Facebook friend. I met him at the same event I was speaking at in Toronto.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
Pass it on.
Yeah, it was great. So we were Facebook friends, and I follow all my friends pretty strictly because if anybody's coming to town or I'm going to their town, I want to connect up because I don't feel Facebook friends or LinkedIn people really connect in person.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool.
I like it.
Right?
Yeah.
So he came in with his wife and his daughter.
Wow.
His name is Dirk. Dirk's a really good guy. Lives in Connecticut. He works for a university in Connecticut. And he wants to get to Hawaii. Right? So much so that he didn't just build a vision board. This guy named his daughter, beautiful little daughter, Leilani.
Wow.
And he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt when he came to San Diego to visit his
How
parents.
old's his daughter?
7 or 8.
So he's had the dream for a while.
Oh, a long while.
Yeah.
But when I posed this issue to him about talent is overrated, he says, wow, well, I don't know if I want to wait 10 more years or more to be proficient at something. I said, no. Let's look at what you've been doing for the last 10 or 12 or 14 years. So we created this model, this income model, these models of income, these income streams from what he knows for the last 14 years.
He's been doing.
And now we can monetize that.
Yeah.
It gave him a whole new perspective on how, but really now, why he was doing what he was doing. And he didn't even know it.
What happens if somebody decides to change their thought process of, well, what I've been doing hasn't actually worked? Or do you find that usually, most of the time, what they've been doing actually gets them to where they needed to be?
Well, I think so. It just depends. So we all have competencies.
Yeah.
We all have proficiencies in something, okay? So if, say, somebody's in the trades and they're very mechanical, well, we can apply their aptitude, mechanical aptitude, to something else, for instance. Maybe not in fixing air conditioners or cars. Let's take the mechanical aptitude and look at the mental processes that someone's going through to solve a problem and start solving problems in another area that requires that analytical mechanism. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Have you wrote a book about that?
I've written a couple of books. They're not really vanity projects, but just stuff I like to give out to people and friends and family.
What are your books?
Well, Invent That Now.
Yeah.
Okay. The Working Inventor.
Yeah.
I chronicled about a year and a half of my travel speaking to high schools and a couple of colleges and news interviews.
And you speak a lot in prisons too.
Oh, I do.
Let's just talk about quickly, I know we're going to talk about your books, but how you've actually gone around the world traveling and gave of your time and your services to teach what you're really great at. And I know I heard you speak for the first time talking about being in the prisons. Tell me a little bit about that.
I was fortunate enough to be able to, I was welcomed into and asked to come to some state and federal prisons in California. And again, it was the result of speaking at this event in Toronto I spoke at several years ago. One of the people at the event.
Aren't you glad you went there?
I'm so grateful. It was great.
It was
Snowy
great,
in
actually.
Canada.
I know.
The only thing that was missing was it wasn't Christmas time.
Little snow bunnies. So tell me.
They were there. So I went and I decided to really believe what some of the long-term prisoners were telling me, that your first day of incarceration is supposed to be of confinement. Let's use the word confinement. I'm going to transfer this to the average person or the average Joe out there working, okay?
Yeah.
The first day of your confinement is really supposed to be the first day of your preparation for release. But if you got 12 years
I
sentence...
never thought of it that way. You don't even think that far.
You don't think about it.
Yeah, you're just looking in the now of what you're going through. Yeah.
Right, so think about the amount of education, the amount of fitness, the amount of, not fun, but the amount of attention you can put on personal development, professional development, physical development in that period of time. So what I realized as well is most people are in prison with the right business model. They're sourcing product at a low cost. They're selling it at a high cost. They've got distribution channels by way of salesmen. They've got security. They've got inventory, right? So all the supply line, distribution line. They got banking.
Yeah.
They got the wrong product.
Yeah.
So when I explain to them, they're really savvy business people. They go, wow, wait a second, really? I said, yeah, it's the right business model, right? You just got the wrong product. Plug the right product into that business model and you guys have a fighting chance when you get out of prison.
Wow, how long have you done that for?
For almost 5 years now.
Yeah, you had a really great story the day you shared in Toronto.
Yeah, it was.
So I know that you're traveling, teaching a lot. So just talk a little bit about this next year for you, because I know you're doing a lot of things. If you just want to talk a little bit about what you're going to be offering, how people can get in touch with you. You're going to be traveling, speaking.
Right.
Just share a little bit about that.
Two very crazy cool things, right? So I look at it like this. From an entrepreneurial space, we've got all kinds of compasses. We've got the little don't get lost in the forest compass you can get at the sporting goods store. You've got the GPS on your smartphone or the navigation in your car.
Yeah.
You're in LA, so you rented a car, it's got navigation.
We had a driver, actually.
Oh, look at you.
I think he had it.
You're special.
I think he had it, though.
Anyway, but the point is, the one thing that's missing in the entrepreneurial space, from a practical matter, is an entrepreneurial compass. The reason why I say that is because a GPS or a compass or the navigator in your phone and car, what they do is they tell you to get from where you are to where you're going, but they couldn't tell you where you're going unless they knew where you are.
Correct.
So
Yes.
Entrepreneurial Compass program starts by really strictly defining a correct assessment and inventory of your resources, so now you can move forward in the direction you want to go.
So I see you right now. I just have a visual of you actually inventing a compass.
Yeah, well,
Are you doing that?
Well, actually, I invented it. It's about a 150-page book
Yeah, me too.
called the Entrepreneurial Compass.
Yeah.
And that I deliver to, like I said, prisons, chiropractors, small businesses. I'm starting now next week before the holidays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm starting to go to a series of high schools in the San Gabriel Valley, which is where Pasadena is, and then we're going to branch out to California with a prisoner, a long-term 13-year prisoner that went through one of my programs. Oh yeah.
Oh wow, that's
yeah.
cool. So he's no longer
No, he's out
obviously
now,
a
yeah.
prisoner.
For 13 years.
And you helped him.
Yeah. Matter of fact,
does that
I
make
helped
you
him.
feel?
Oh, it's great. Give me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, he's
That was
good,
really
good
good.
protege of that. So I know you from so many different aspects, from the Facebook, from your website, from producing, from being an inventor, from being a teacher, for all these great things that you do. What is it that you love the best doing?
You know what? I guess the question, the two questions I ask myself all the time and everybody else is, where's the money in what you do? And then I'll ask you, where's the money in what I do? Because I want different perspectives.
Yeah.
But the next question is, to what end? Goals are one thing. I got a nice watch. I got a house. I got a car. Well, okay. Oh, I lost all this weight. Okay.
Now what?
To what end? Well, I can fit in my old jeans. I can climb up that hill. I can find the love of my life, or all of those three things,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I think the important thing to recognize is it's not just the goals. It's not just this. It's to what end are you doing all of this, right? So for me, it's like I want to be the dispensator of my own time. If I get a wild hair and I want to go visit my grandson in Boise, Idaho, I'm going to go.
And I've talked to you so many times about that. You're just like, nope, I'm going here now. Yep, no, I can't do that. I got to go do this. And you Facebook me, say, I'm going to go see my grandson, or I'm going to go fix my house for a year. I'm going to the Hollywood Bowl running.
Oh, yeah,
He said
Rose
one
Bowl
day.
in
I
Pasadena.
can't talk to you right now. I have to go do this run. And I'm just like, wow, he's really good at that.
I want people to
Yeah.
build, I want them to define their own better way of life, whatever that is. I can't tell them what it is.
Yeah. They
Anybody
need to
that's
do
telling
that.
you what to do, run the other way. The real
Yes.
thing is this. Look, the first rules of investigation are look, don't listen. What are they? What are they doing? Do you want to do that or be that? Then do that. Emulate them.
Yep. And you know, so many people tell you that you have to, you should, and you need to. And as soon as people say that, we had this conversation before, you have to, you should, and you need. I'm just like, oh, sorry, stop listening.
I get fired up on this. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, because it's like, no, not okay
Tell me
with
what
me.
you're really thinking. No, seriously.
Now, you know what? Here's the thing. When we did Pass It On, the film Pass It On, which came after The Secret, we watched The Secret. It was dynamite stuff. But everybody's always been talking about universal law of attraction. Let me think it right.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as thinking
Make it right.
The word
Act it.
action is derived from, literally, the derivation. Again, look this up in your dictionary or Google it. Means something done.
Right.
Literally, something done. And there's nothing more important than getting something done. I don't believe for a second that somebody says, I want this, and it appears.
Right.
Okay? I want this, and then you start moving in the direction of having that thing appear, or you stumble upon it. I mean, that's really where it's at. So
That
it's-
happens to me a lot. I'm thinking something, and I'm like, oh, look at that, it's here.
those thoughts take you in different directions,
Yeah.
but the thing is to
the
acknowledge
seed.
that.
Yeah.
You leave less to chance. There seems to be an orderly nature to how we live,
Yeah.
and we all want to assign a causation
Yeah.
to the quantum or disorder, a chaos underlying this physical universe we're looking at and deal in. We can't do that. There's no causation. Okay, we need to make things happen, be it cause, not let things happen to us. We need to make things happen.
So it's a little bit of control, but not really control.
Well,
but
slight
just
gentle
kind of a
cause,
mindset.
slight gentle
Yeah.
cause, I think is important.
So Scott, how can people get in touch with you, and if they wanted to hire you to speak at one of their events? Because I know you're really great at that, and you're traveling all around doing that. Just share with them, how can they reach you? What's the best? You've got a website, email, or where can they find you?
They can they can see my website at scottevansnow.com. Scott Evans, EVANS, now.com. It's kind of a shameless plug. Ugh.
Yeah, why did you
Anyway,
do? Why did you do now?
it's a command. Well, one Scott Evans
Now.
was taken, and that was like a command. Boom, go there now.
Now, go there now.
And then scottevansnow@gmail.com. But my brother and I are now going out on a speaking tour.
You are, yeah. So tell us
Yeah.
about that.
So my brother wrote, narrated, and directed The Sandlot, Sandlot 2. He wrote and produced Radio Flyer. Those are stories about our life, literally.
Yeah,
We lived
great.
those stories.
Yeah.
Outside of the fantasy and dream sequences, everything else was really well accounted for and true. He's written movies way back to Hocus Pocus. I mean, he's like, guy's got a
Yeah, he's got a
filmography that
huge
goes forever.
portfolio.
So we decided, you know what, let's go out and talk to people about overcoming adversity. Talk to people about not just motivation and inspiration, but the perseverance, the determination it takes. Oh, and by the way, it's all true. It's like all measurable senses of accomplishment.
And that's an important thing. It's all measurable.
Yeah, and
people don't know how to
it's
do
all
that.
transparent.
Yeah.
There's nothing that we'll say that you can't check out. But the cool thing is we've overcome such adversity. And Les
You
Brown,
have,
the motivational guy, said, Scott, nobody wants to hear about your successes. They want to hear about your adversity, the things you've
Exactly.
overcome.
Yeah.
And we've decided, my brother and I, to go out on this big promotional tour and talk
Got
about
great
that.
adversity. I said on the way here to a friend of mine, I said, you know, if you actually went and did everything and there was no struggle with it, then you really have no story to inspire other people with. So, and I know you've got a great story. I've been able to hear your story and with your brother, and I definitely encourage people to check out scottevansnow.com
Yes.
and hear your story and get your books and hire you for speaking, because I know I'm going to see you again in Toronto, probably at my event.
Very soon.
So if you have words of wisdom or inspiration that you just want to share with people, what would it be?
Good question. And I was thinking, when we talked earlier, I was thinking about this. I talked to a friend of mine. His name is Dave. He created DSL for the internet. And I'm going to speak right to you because I really want this to sink in. Because people come to me and say, hey, Scott, wow, what I want to do something. What can I do with this idea? And so I took that question and many other questions to my buddy Dave. And I said, Dave, people are asking me this question because he's my mentor. And he says, Scott, this is what I want you to tell them. Oh, can I tell you how to make $1 million very quickly? First?
Absolutely.
Here's how you make $1 million, okay? Guaranteed $1 million. Work the average of 260 days, gets to a point, an average of 260 days a year for the median income in the US anyway of just over $46,000 a year for 21 and a half years, and you'll make $1 million. But you'll be hopelessly in debt. You will have bought a couple of cars, maybe married and
Maybe a
divorced with
house.
some kids, maybe a house, okay? You will have earned it, but you will have spent more than
But you
that.
would not have
okay?
had it.
So let's take our attention off of making $1 million, which goes to what Dave was telling me. He says,
Yeah.
Scott, I tell people to go home and watch the average of 5 hours of TV every night, like the average American does. Get up in the morning and don't be late for work. Clock in, clock out, and do that as many times as you can before you die, because that's most people's lot in life. Now, if you want to do extraordinary things, here's the little chunk of inspiration, if you will.
Nugget.
The nugget. First, you have to endeavor to be and become an extraordinary person. Only then can you do extraordinary things. Behind every extraordinary action or thing was either an extraordinary person or a part of that being that became extraordinary for that snapshot in time. Don't be fooled, because that is what it takes.
Yeah. And how can people find out how to be extraordinary?
Just email me.
Yes.
You know, I
And
listen.
that's how we're
I'm
gonna leave
totally
it.
accessible. There's nothing to sell. Just get a hold of me.
And what's your email?
ScottEvansNow@gmail.com.
So I know we're running out of time, and you've got such great history of thoughts and processes and intelligence that people do need to email you now, because you need to find out the answers. So thank you, Scott, for coming, being with me today.
Thank you.
I'm happy that I know you've got a really, really busy day, schedule, delivering things, but thank you. I'm grateful that you were able to spend the afternoon with us. So thank you for watching. It's Wendy Ladd from Fabulous Fit and Fantastic TV.